Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every week, we hear of a brutal murder, rape, or stabbing, far too often perpetrated by someone who should not be in our country to begin with. Does the Prime Minister agree that for cases where the guilt is so undeniable, the crime so monstrous, the evil so irredeemable, the reintroduction of the death penalty for both foreign and domestic criminals should be put to the British people in a legally binding referendum?
Can I first say that any attack...
Hi, hello, what's up, Navigator. And this episode is going to be a little sad because I have something to talk about, which is really a huge problem, not just for the UK, but here in America, because the same thing happens here, in which a young man, an 18-year-old man, was killed by a third worlder who was released multiple times, but just kept getting released, arrested multiple times, kept getting released because, you know, they need them for their votes. And yeah, people are just pissed off about it now because, you know, this happens every day. It happens every day. It don't matter if it's the UK, France, or America. A third worldist who they killed another citizen, and they don't care because they hate white people and they hate their own citizens, which is just sad. And I'm going to show you a video of what happened where he actually went up to cops asking for help because after he was stabbed, and the cops said, "No, you're being racist," and they arrested him instead, and he died in the handcuffs. Yeah. And you can imagine the outrage because, honestly, the people in the UK, they're done with it. They're done with it. Like, you know what this reminds me of? It is true when they say that history does repeat, but it also rhymes. This honestly reminds me of Black Lives Matter. You know, with George Floyd, but there's a huge difference. Black Lives Matter, that was artificial. That was all artificial. None of it was organic. So as soon as the money stopped and dried up, the whole movement went away. This is real. This was real injustice, real tyranny of the state. Let's just call it what it is. It's tyranny of the state. They imported a bunch of people who do not share their values and who hate the people who live there just for power and control. And because of that, more of their citizens keep dying. Well, they're not dying, they're getting murdered. And they're allowing the murderers to walk free while blaming the people who don't do the crime. And that's the UK, that's Canada, that is definitely New York, all blue states, really. Like, no joke, if you're black, you can get away with by turning off somebody and they'll release you. And it's true. Like, go to Chicago and ask them how many black teenagers have they released because they don't want the bad optics of that. Yeah. And I'm going to show you the video, and I'm going to say brace yourself because it really is just societal collapse. It's societal collapse on full display.
18-year-old Henry Nowak was stabbed to death in Southampton, England last year by 23-year-old Vickrum Digwa. Digwa, a Sikh, claims he acted in self-defense. He told police that Nowak had racially targeted him and ripped off his turban. At trial, jurors rejected those claims. Digwa was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Now, though, newly released body cam footage shows exactly what happened. Officers arrived at the scene and arrested Henry Nowak as he lay bleeding from his stab wounds. And the 18-year-old can be heard telling police, "I can't breathe."
I can't breathe. Grab his other arm. What's happened to you, alright? You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate. Hand?
I can't breathe.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so let's just check him.
Where do you think you've been stabbed? In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
Right.
In the face?
Just get these back off, get their details on that, and I'll keep hold of him.
Should we
Right, keep you on your side, mate.
just being beat up? Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
You've been stabbed. Whereabouts? I don't believe you have, mate. "I can't breathe," Henry Nowak says more than 9 times in the portion of the video before what you see on your screen. The police walk up to a scene where they know nothing has happened. They know no details. They only accept the words of Digwa that he was the victim of a racial attack, placing Nowak in cuffs as he dies there at their feet. Henry's dad says the way his son was treated in his final moments was degrading.
Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him. Let me be absolutely clear. We hold Vickrum Digwa solely and 100% responsible for the brutal murder of our son. But Henry should not have died on the streets of Southampton in police custody. The way he was treated was inhumane and degrading.
Digwa was not the victim of a racial attack. Digwa was convicted of murder. But now the attention is focused on the police, where even UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says that that body cam footage is disturbing.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing. And I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick watching it. There are clearly serious questions that need to be addressed, not least how accusations of racism informed the decision-making in this case.
The Prime Minister says he needs to know more about whether claims of racism affected the police response in this case. And that takes us back to 2020. Starmer took a knee in solidarity with the George Floyd protesters. Thousands across the UK and, of course, the US filled the streets. The media paid attention. Politicians paid attention. Corporations paid attention. A white teenage kid is dying on a street in England, and you can hear him tell police he can't breathe, just like George Floyd in 2020. So why do some victims become symbols while others do not? We're starting to see protests, as we mentioned, on the streets of England. The podcast host Konstantin Kisin put it well. You will not see Henry's words stenciled on a mural. No politician will quote them in the Commons. No corporation will change its logo. The same establishment that made 4 words immortal when spoken by a black man in Minneapolis has met with the same 4 words, spoken by a white boy dying on a Southampton street, with what can only be described as a determined institutional silence. That silence is not neutral. It is a statement. It tells you exactly whose suffering the system has decided counts and whose does not.
Yeah, and that's just sad. Like he was begging for help, and they just laughed it off. And then they helped the guy who stabbed the guy and made him go bye-bye, turn him off. Yeah, and you know what's craziest fact? They took him to dinner. They took them to dinner. Yeah, the cops who did that, A, need to figure out what their names are, and B, they need to be brought up for manslaughter, because that's exactly what that was. And I think this was just nothing more than a correlation of what was happening, like with mass migration, them not integrating, them not assimilating, the UK having a 2-tier justice system where if you're white, you get stabbed and get bye-bye turned off, you go to jail, where they take your people who made you go bye-bye turned off at dinner. They try to take all the white people's guns, but if you're brown, you can keep your knives because they say it's your religion, nonsense like that. The fact that they won't arrest terrorists unless you're white. and yeah, basically this is all going to turn into a white lives matter thing. And it's going to be nothing like George Floyd, because that was all artificial. That was all artificial. Nothing. It had no real roots and no real soul. This will, and it's going to lead to violence. It's going to lead to violence because when the cops are protecting the terrorists instead of the citizens realize, yep, we have nothing to do, but we have to rebel. And they are pissed, and the people are pissed. And reform, if they really want to show that they have any real, balls, they're going to have to do the one thing, and they're already talking about bringing back the death penalty for both foreign and domestic terrorists, because that's really, they have more domestic terrorists, let's be honest. All this is going on is caused 100% on the last party government, like no doubt. And it seemed like, yeah, things are starting to rhyme again, because this reminds me of back when in Age of Kings ended, and they started to behead all of the terrible dictator kings they had. Yeah, the same thing's happening now. The difference is, I'm curious about how bloody this one's going to get.
I am Henry Nowak's father. To my left is my daughter Olivia Nowak, Henry's older sister, and to her left is Lucy Ross. Nowak's mother. The jury confirmed what we've always known. Henry's life was taken from him unlawfully, violently, and without justification. Henry was 18 years old. He was kind, ambitious, loved and full of promise. He had his whole life ahead of him, a degree to finish, places to see, and a future to build. That future was stolen from him, and no verdict or sentence will ever give it back. Henry did nothing wrong. He was one of the kindest, friendliest, and most inclusive people you could ever hope to meet. He was amazing in every way. On the 3rd of December last year, Henry was walking home from a night out with his university football teammates when he encountered Vickrum Digwa, a man openly carrying a large knife on the streets of Britain. That knife was used to take Henry's life. He should have been safe walking home. Instead, he became another young life lost to the brutal reality of knife crime in this country. Henry had been stabbed multiple times, and as his chest filled with blood, he tried to escape. He was chased, abused, and filmed by Vickrum Digwa and others. When police arrived, Henry was lying on the floor, barely able to sit up and plainly in severe medical distress. With his final words, he told officers that he could not breathe. He told them he had been stabbed. In fact, Henry told officers that he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from one officer was, "I don't think you have, mate." The police have said they were misled by the murderer and that the scene when they arrived was complex. Unfortunately, it seems to us the truth is much simpler. The police were told by our son himself and by a member of the public who called 999 that they heard someone shout that they had been stabbed. But the police did not believe them. Henry was pulled across the gravel, his hands forced behind his back, and he was placed in handcuffs. Instead of being treated as a dying victim, police formally arrested Henry for assault and read him his rights. That was the last thing he heard. Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him. Let me be absolutely clear. We hold Vickrum Digwa solely and 100% responsible for the brutal murder of our son. But Henry should not have died on the streets of Southampton in police custody. The way he was treated was inhumane and degrading. His murderer, however, was afforded decency. He was believed. He was not handcuffed when arrested. He was not handcuffed when transported to the police station. As far as we understand, he was never handcuffed at all. And, as Vickrum Digwa himself told the court, whilst under arrest for Henry's murder, police even took him to the kitchen so he could choose his food. The contrast is unbearable. We believe the officers involved remain on duty, although we understand some may have since resigned. One was allowed to leave the force before she had given an account to the Independent Office of Police Conduct of what happened that evening. The IOPC investigation remains ongoing. Whilst we await its final report, we are calling on the Home Secretary to ensure that the IOPC has the resources, authority and independence it needs to conduct a full, fearless and transparent investigation. Our family should not have to fight for the truth anymore. Despite the shocking actions of the police on that fatal night, the murder investigation was very different. We would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Senior Investigating Officer DCI Rebecca Bartholomew, the Serious Crime Team, and particular officer in the case, Claire Proctor. We would also like to thank our incredible family liaison officers, Sarah Page and Trudy May, for their diligence, professionalism and compassion throughout this investigation. We would also like to thank the CPS, as well as Nick Lobenberg, KC, and Neil King for their outstanding advocacy skills in prosecuting this case. In our darkest period of our lives, knowing that people were fighting tirelessly for Henry gave us strength. They secured justice for our son, and for that, our family will be forever grateful. For us, there is no closure. There is no moment where the pain stops. There is no moment where the Henry-shaped hole in our family is filled. We will carry this grief every single day for the rest of our lives. But today matters. Today, Henry was believed. The truth has been recognized. Today, justice, in the eyes of the law, has been served. But justice alone is not enough. We want to use Henry's heartbreaking story to make change for the better. We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone. That is why we are calling on the government to treat knife crime as the national emergency that it is. We need real solutions. We need investment in prevention. We need stronger action on the sale, the ownership and carrying of all knives. And as this case so painfully demonstrates, we need common sense applied to our laws. This doesn't mean knee-jerk reactions. This doesn't mean going to extremes. It just means a common sense approach to law and order. As the KC for the prosecution summed up in court, this is not a case about Sikhism. This is not a case about racism. This is a case about murder. People should not be able to walk openly through the streets of Britain carrying a 21-centimetre blade. As a family, we will not let this go. No other family should experience the heartbreak and horror of losing a child to knife crime. Finally, I want Henry to know, wherever he is, we are so proud of him and we love him beyond words. Thank you.
The family of Henry Nowak there outside Southampton Crown Court. Quite breathtaking statement given out as the mother, father, relatives walk back up the steps.
But this was all going to come. This was all honestly predictable. The same thing's going to happen in California and New York. Give it a few minutes. But yeah, you cannot have a society where you blame everything on one side. You know, all the people who were in Black Lives Matter saying how they're oppressed, blah, blah, blah. The Brits are actually going through that right now. Yeah, they actually have a two-tier system where if you're white, you can get yourself stabbed, beg for help, and then the cops don't believe you, laugh at you, put you in a car where you go bye-bye, turn it off, or they take the murderer out for dinner. Yeah, the UK, you are screwed. And yeah, violence is going to happen no matter what, because you pissed off too many people. And don't believe anything Keir Starmer said. If he cared about his own people, which he don't, him and his party, they're all traitors to their people. They are. They allowed them. They wanted mass immigration so they can stay in power. And they saw the citizens going bye-bye, turn it off as an acceptable sacrifice, which it was. Same with the Democrats, like with Lincoln Riley. They don't care as long as they keep that power, which is honestly disgusting. And yeah, I hope they bring back the bye-bye, turn it off penalty because they need it. And they need to make it public too, because that will shut them up. Because there's one thing that you need to know about people who will do anything for power. They're afraid of one thing: going bye-bye, turn it off. That, remember when Trump was shot in the ear? You think Obama or Joe Biden would do that? No, they would run like babies. And to finish this off, I'm going to go through the Bible, which a passage that really does make sense. John 13:18. I do not speak considering all of you. I know who I have chosen, but then that these scripture may be fulfilled. He who eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me. Now I tell you before it comes, that when it does come to pass, you may believe that I am he. Most absurdly, I say to you, who he receives, whoever I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who he sent. Thank you. This has been Navigator. Comment and please send this video as many people as you can, because you know the mainstream media will not talk about this. They won't, because they hate white people. Well, they hate white people, they hate the West, they hate men, and they don't want to destroy that narrative. They see an 18-year-old boy getting bye-bye, turn it off, they don't care. Unless it's just by another white person. Alright, see you again.